Today's guest on the podcast is Saunders. She's a 7-time CrossFit Games competitor, and I know my daughter and I enjoyed watching her when we were at the games this year, and she's such a wonderful athlete to watch. I mean, all of the games competitors are incredible, but there's something about Cara that is just so powerful, so strong, and so focused, and I just knew that I had to try and speak with her, and so we were super lucky to coordinate it and also to have Stella on to ask some questions. So it was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode with Cara Saunders.
Welcome to the Same 24 Hours podcast with Meredith Atwood. We all have the same 24 hours each day, and it's what we do with those hours that makes all the difference between our health, happiness, and success.
Special guest here with me in studio, Stella Rae.
Hey guys.
Stella's going to help us do a little interview with Cara today, and we're super excited. So, Stella, where have I been all day?
At a race.
What race? Do you know?
Half Ironman, I think.
That's correct. And so we've been in Augusta. We did the half Ironman today, and it's now almost 10 p.m. You took a nap today because you wanted to stay up with our special guest.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Mom's a little tired, so I need you for this interview.
Got it.
To hold me together. Are you super excited?
Oh, I'm so excited.
Are you? So what's your favorite part about CrossFit?
I like to suffer. It gives me more strength in my body.
Yeah. Do you want to tell everyone about your what you're doing on Instagram?
Well, I have this Instagram called WODs for Kids, and I do WODs that kids can do at home. So,
super exciting.
Yeah, I love it.
What do you love best about making your own workouts?
Well, because a lot of the kids, I see videos of them doing my workouts, and I think they look up to me. Just like I look up to Cara Saunders.
Yeah, so you want to be inspiring and helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. All right, well, we hope you all enjoy this episode with Cara. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Same 24 Hours podcast. I'm your host, Meredith Atwood. Today's guest is Cara Saunders. Hi, Cara.
Hi, how you going?
Hi. So we also have another special guest with us. My daughter, Stella Rae, is here. Hi, Stella.
Hi.
So, Cara, thank you so much for taking the time post CrossFit Games to chat. I know that we talked a little bit ahead of time, but obviously that was a crazy time. So how are you feeling after the games?
Oh, it's actually so nice after the games. I get asked a lot at this time of year, oh, what are you doing? What are your plans? And I'm like, you know what? Straight after the CrossFit Games, we commit ourselves for an entire year, all in, and it's insane. And you don't have the time or energy for pretty much anything else. So for right now, I spend a lot of time just catching up on being Cara, the normal person, and spending time cooking food again and cleaning my house properly and spending time with my husband in a non-stressful training environment and putting a little bit more time and energy into my gym and just sort of enjoying that time, I guess, that downtime, to kind of reset for, whatever's to come.
Yeah. Yeah. So you wrote a letter to yourself. I love this on the internet where dear 20-year-old Cara, has anything changed about that letter? Now, I don't know. This might be my bad research. If that letter was before, I feel like it was before the games. Maybe it was after.
No, it was after.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was just after. Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you say in that letter? What did you have to say to your 20-year-old self?
I think pretty much the most important thing, the kind of message that I was trying to send to myself, and I can't remember entirely what I said, but the main message is that, there's going to be things that will change, in your life, and there's going to be some pretty big things that are sort of thrust upon you, and just to essentially, not doubt yourself and understand that things will come your way for a reason, and to throw yourself into it entirely anyway, despite what the potential outcome is, and enjoy what the opportunities that have been presented to you, and don't let anybody else's opinion or judgment or whatever it may be get in the way, or even the prospect of disappointment. Don't let that ever sort of stop you from doing any of these things, and to understand that it will all be worth it, and that essentially it will make you a better person in the end.
Yes, I love it. I love it. So Stella, why don't you ask Cara your first question?
Okay, so when did you first fall in love with CrossFit?
You know what? I did my very first CrossFit kind of workout many years ago. I think it was maybe 2010, and I did this one workout in a regular gym, and I thought, man, this is really fun. This is totally different than anything I've been doing by myself in the gym, that I like when I didn't really know what to do. But I remember going to where I really, really fell in love was I went to a competition that year in 2010. And it was the equivalent to what we have known as our regionals in CrossFit. And it was called sectionals, and it was much, much smaller than what we know in the CrossFit Games season now. And I went there to this local gym where they hosted all of these people who were trying to get a spot, at the CrossFit Games. And I watched these crazy people do these workouts. This room was full of people, and they were cheering, and like I couldn't even believe the energy that you could contain in one space, and what these people were doing, getting behind these guys and girls who were working out, and the energy alone, and then the way that they were kind of throwing themselves into these workouts. I instantly was, I don't know, just like excited, I guess. And I thought from that moment, I remember from that exact moment going into my regular gym and deciding that I would never do a regular workout ever again. And I tried to copy CrossFit workouts every single day until I joined an affiliate. I tried to follow CrossFit.com or make up my own what I thought were CrossFit workouts. And it was from that moment it changed. I never did anything the way I had done it before ever again.
That's awesome. So you actually started CrossFit, and then you were at the games, a year later?
Yeah, so I officially started in a CrossFit affiliate in February of 2011. And then in 2012, I qualified for the CrossFit Games. I won that regional and totally caught off guard, total surprise, but a really, really nice one and scary. And I went to the CrossFit Games for the first time that year.
That is so impressive. I'm coming up on my 1 year CrossFit anniversary, and that's not going to happen for me, Cara. I keep dropping my phone. Sorry. So what did you do before CrossFit?
At the time when I started CrossFit, I was actually in a bit of like a transition phase, I guess. I was young. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do for work. I didn't really want to go out and kind of be young and party and do all those kind of things anymore. And so this was like a sort of a really good transition for me. Before that, though, I guess before I had started just working out in a regular gym, like all through school, I played sport in primary school, and I was always really driven by competitive sport. I preferred individual sport. I did a lot of swimming, and then I transitioned into high school, and part of the reason why I wrote the letter to myself is that I let myself get a little bit caught up in what that high school was and how those girls were, and decided that the fact that I was different and that I was good at what I was doing but what I was doing was different, that it must be wrong and that maybe I wouldn't fit in and have friends there. So I neglected essentially everything that I was doing for my whole high school life, and didn't do any kind of physical activity at all, just let it all go, and then didn't really pick it up until I needed it again, until I really decided that I kind of wanted to be me again. And that's when I found CrossFit.
That's so interesting, what you just said about you didn't pick it up until you needed it again. Yeah, we go through all these phases in life. I was a weightlifter in high school, and then when I walked out of the sport, I put the barbell down. I didn't touch it for 20 years, like at all. I did work out, Stella. But then, yeah, like I needed it again. I think that was just an interesting statement. So, Stella, you have a question for Cara about the CrossFit Games.
Yes. What is your favorite event in the CrossFit Games?
Oh, that's so hard.
Or what is your least favorite? We have that question too.
Okay. I've got some favorite workouts, and they're probably more so my favorite ones, my favorite events, because I have fond memories. And there's a handful of those. I think I am going to say one of my favorite fond memories. Oh, what would it be? You know what? The very first, the earliest one that comes to my mind was in 2014. We did a 1 rep max overhead squat, and it was like from the rack, and I was severely injured at the time, and nobody knew, and for some reason, whatever it is, someone was looking out for me, and I was able to do these overhead squats because I was taking them from behind my neck instead of in front. And I was incredibly lucky that was the case, and they were my favorite lift at the time. And I had no expectations of myself that year because I knew I was so injured, but I was just doing the best I could. And I went out there and I PR'd my overhead squat in the warm-up area, and then I went out and I won the event out on the floor. And I remember we'd come off a beach event that morning. Again, I didn't even know if I was going to be able to do that event. I did the beach event, and I still had like sandy, salty hair, and I was like in my element. I just was kind of super relaxed, doing the best I could, won an event. I just remember like that feeling was just amazing. So that's probably one of my fondest. One of my least favorite events
was the marathon row.
I actually, like, as painful as that was, I think I had so much pride in how hard I had worked for my aerobic base this year that and placing 6th when I'm like 5'3" and totally a power athlete. That was actually really amazing for me. Do you know what? I feel like there's this thing, you know, when like women have children and they say like it's so, you know, it's uncomfortable, like it hurts. It's this massive experience, right?
Yeah.
And then after a period of time, you forget about it so that you'll do it again. Right. And I feel like that with the CrossFit Games, like off the top of my head right now, I'm like, no, there's never been any bad events. And then at the time, there's something that's terrible and you're like, I'll never do this again. I'm going to say
from a spectator standpoint, I mean, we went this year and it was just incredible to watch. I mean, you guys are just, I can't emphasize enough how incredible of athletes you all are. It's out of this world.
It still surprises me, to be honest. I sort of reflect after the games at, you know, what myself and the other women and then the other 45 men all did. And I think to myself, when I kind of settle back into real life, I can't believe that we've actually worked ourselves to a point where we have the capacity to do what we do. And at the time, like, you're so in the trenches and you're so engrossed in what you're doing that I just don't even think we realize how exceptional it is that we've trained our bodies to be able to do that. Like it is amazing, and it's something that I'm forever so proud of, that, you know, I walked away after the games and despite the fact that we did an insane amount of work, my body was good to me. You know, it was in one piece. I wasn't incredibly sore. I was a bit tired, you know, from the energy of it all, and that's about it. And it's just amazing. It's amazing what you can condition and train yourself to do.
It's absolutely amazing. We did the marathon row because it showed up on CrossFit programming, and I said I was going to do it for my birthday anyway, and I did it, and it was fine. But my hands were completely broken. I mean, they were bloody blistered, and I remember You guys did the next workout was something. It was like the bar muscle up workout or something.
Yeah. I like fully expected to have like torn hands and everything. And I learned something a long time ago. I did like pack marches, and the kind of concept with that is like the more you move, you know, when you get uncomfortable, the worse it is. And you start like things start to rub and get uncomfortable. And I kind of applied that same principle to this row. And I thought my hands are uncomfortable, but so long as they don't move, it's just uncomfortable. It's going to be okay. I can keep moving. But if I start to, you know, get distressed and move around, I'm going to blister in my hands, and, you know, it's going to become like really sort of distressing. So I need to just kind of like settle in and not move. And luckily I had two weird little blisters like in the webs of my hands, like in between my fingers, but they weren't in a bad spot. So I was like, I'll take it.
Oh my goodness. Do you have trouble with your hands, or are you one of the lucky ones who has tough hands?
No, I've got like 40-year-old tradesman hands. So they're tough as nails. I got a few layers on them, and everyone always asks me what I do to them, and I do absolutely nothing. I try and avoid letting them get too soft, and I think a huge part of it actually comes down to your movement pattern. If you train your grip strength and you train essentially like your upper back and your shoulders and your scaps to kind of hold load a little better, then your hands don't end up having to work so much. And it's kind of the boring work that people don't want to do, but it pays off when you don't tear your hands.
Right. I tear my hands every week, and then I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I used to do Olympic lifting, and so I never tore on the upper parts, but I tear my palms now, so that's because I have a tear.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be grip strength and where you're holding it, just creating too much friction on the bar. Yeah.
When did you start? Did you start Olympic lifting when you started training for CrossFit, or did you do some lifting before?
No, I did it all at the exact same time. I learned all of my gymnastics at the same time, all of my Olympic lifting. The only thing I can say is back when I first started and the programming that I was doing is it was very, very much CrossFit, like well-balanced CrossFit back when I started. The way that it has evolved now is that you have to put a lot more emphasis on things like your gymnastics and your endurance elements. So, you know, basic CrossFit had kind of like your pull-ups and your toes bar and all those kind of things, but I really rarely ever did anything that was of any additional skill. And so really the skill work and the body awareness kind of exercises that you're doing are predominantly Olympic lifting. So I felt more comfortable with that. In saying that, I'm naturally like a little better built for weightlifting than I am gymnastics. It's never been an excuse of mine. It kind of just was a thing that I took to a little easier. So I didn't have to work for it quite as hard. But I think a huge part of it is that, you know, your average class, like I was just doing CrossFit classes, and your average class doesn't really put much emphasis on those body positions and shapes and patterning of gymnastics.
Yeah. So what are some of your weaknesses? What do you struggle with in CrossFit and in life? I mean, for me, it's, you know, ice cream. I struggle with that. But what are some of the things that you struggle with?
In CrossFit, I guess my weak movements, like I have a kind of handle on like a handful of them, like anyone, just depending on how you're built and what your background is. I've always had to work a little bit harder for pressing movements, especially inverted, and then particularly my aerobic capacity. So like longer runs and things like that, which was something that I focused a lot more on. I actually sought out help to do those kind of things last year for the first time. So they've probably been my focus heavily for quite a while to try and round out my skills. And I'm doing them all the time. In the way of life, my weaknesses, I think I'm probably a little temperamental, to be honest. I'm super all in everything I do, and I can be intense, for lack of a better word. And sometimes it can work in my favor and sometimes it can't. I can tend to, like, I'll really put my greatest strength in that I'll put my entire heart on the line and I will really go all in with anything. Definitely is my greatest strength, and it's what kind of gets me where I am. But at times I have to work really hard to slow down, to step back and to look at things from the outside looking in and see things a little bit clearer and from less from a place of emotion and more logically. So that's something that I've been very, very aware of in myself. And I guess that's where you kind of need people around you. And my husband's like a total contrast to that. So he is super level-headed and he's super balanced and he can see things from the outside looking in and not get emotional about things. So that's where I kind of lean on him, you know, a little bit to kind of to keep me in line and slow me down when I need to. But and it's a part of who I am, but it's just one of those things that you have to understand so that you can control it and not let it control you.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, Stella, your turn.
Can I tell her one of my favorite events?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
My favorite event is where like they start at the start line in the stadium, and there's 5 barbells, and then they snatch them.
Oh, yeah, like a snatch ladder.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Yes. You know what? They are one of my favorite too, but I get so nervous. I get so nervous because it's something that I should be really good at, and I know that I'm really good at. So I get scared to do it super fast, and that I might make a mistake when I know that I could do really well. So they end up being like really scary for me, but then also really fun at the same time.
Yeah.
They're fun to watch though because it's such a crazy race.
Yes, it's so fun.
Yeah.
So, what advice do you have for a young girl who wants to go to the games?
You know what? I think I got a couple of things. One is, first of all, to understand that it's 100% your goal. And if you want to go to the games, it doesn't matter what anybody says or what anybody does or whatever happens along the way, is to write it down and make sure that you stay true to the fact that that's what you want to do. From there, I would say find someone or a group of people who support you in your goal and are going to help you out. So people that might know better than you, that have a good program or can help you with your nutrition or whatever it would be later on. Anyone that can teach you things that are going to help get you there. Get a good little team that are going to help you, and then listen and learn as much as you possibly can. I think you know, a good athlete really needs to be able to listen and learn like you would a student at school. And if you can do that and trust that you'll get good information from anywhere and not worry where that comes from, then you'll always be successful so long as you work really hard.
That's good advice. Do you have any follow-up to that? Do you have any questions?
I have, who do you look up to?
Oh, you know what? I look up to a few different people, and they're probably people that you wouldn't really think, oh, why do you look up, you know, that you would look up to them. And they're from a lot of different places and they do a lot of different things. But generally the people that I really look up to are people who are doing really well at something that they absolutely love. So they've made a choice to pursue what they love. So whether that be cooking or exercising or writing books or whatever it may be, and they love it so much and they get so excited about it that they do it really, really well. And they're the kind of people that I look up to, and I hope that, you know, they inspire me to do the same, to really look at myself and know what I love to do. And then I hope that I can work really hard and be successful doing what I love just like them.
That's awesome. So, Cara, what do you do? Are you a morning person or are you a night person? Like, when do you do your best workouts?
Totally a morning person. I wake up early every single day, and the second I wake up, I'm ready to go. I'm high energy in the morning, and then I sort of gradually fade through the afternoon and the evening. So I would prefer, I get a lot of work done before my husband even gets out of bed in the morning. So I usually have these couple of hours in the morning where I get up and I'm straight on my emails. I've got this whole process, and I, you know, pot around and get things done around my house. Or I, you know, if I coach classes, I prefer to coach the morning classes because I feel like I do a much better job. I'm much more alert. I'm going to give a much better service to my members and be much more switched on for them. So I sort of prefer to do all of those things and creative things and need that kind of effort in the morning for sure. And then as the day kind of winds down, I like to slow down with it and kind of just relax and eat and just potter around before bed. I'm slow in the night and I like an early bedtime.
Yeah. So what do you do about balance? I mean, I have this theory that you really can't, that balance is impossible, and everyone that's trying to sell the idea of balance it's just impossible. Something's always going to give if you're going to be excellent in something else. I mean, that's my theory. But is it hard to balance coaching classes with your own training, or do you just have a way to kind of box it off and take care of it all?
You know what? It is super hard to maintain balance. I definitely think it's possible. I just think you need to sort of be really realistic with it and potentially be willing to change your perspective sometimes. For me, I find that I work my best and I maintain a really good order of balance if I have certain things booked in my day, so things that will establish an element of routine, and then I work everything around it. So for instance, if I coach morning classes and I know that I will eat at a certain time based off those morning classes, I'll train because I'm already at the gym, and then I'll do some work in the hours that I'm there, and that helps me get structure in my day. But then with that, with the structure and a routine and a little bit of a plan in the week, which is definitely, I've got a few things that I follow. Like I try and get the yucky stuff out of the way first, so then the rest of the day is kind of set up, and I follow a little bit of a plan like that, and I book myself in for certain things at certain times. And then you also have to have a flexible mind and understand that sometimes things come up, because they definitely come up. And if you don't prepare for things to come up, like real things, then, you just end up freaking out and then nothing ever gets done. But I recently had to do an assignment, and a part of that was a study plan. And within that study plan, I color coded the whole system of like what was CrossFit Kova time, what was family time, what was just plain recreation time, where are my breaks, where do I study, where do I train? And that was so beneficial for me, because I now have this color-coded system where I'm like, okay, I've got an hour to do some Kova work, and then I'm going to have a break. And I force myself to follow that structure and not overwork or underwork. And I commit to the time that I'm on for something and balance it out that way. And then if things slightly need to be shifted around, it's not a big deal. And I think I think that can really, really help if you're struggling with balance.
That is so fascinating. Okay, so color-coded. Is it on your calendar?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I created Microsoft Word have a ton of templates that you can create, and I found a planner in there that I liked, and I kind of just moved it around myself, and I just put in, I know the times that I'm going to coach, and then I know around about the time I'm going to eat and things like that, and I literally just kind of looked at the time. So for example, last night I nearly fell into the trap of doing some more work for the gym, before bed. And I look at my little thing and I'm like, no, my pre-bed hour, that's dedicated. I'm either let a break or it's recreational reading. It's reading things that, are really enjoyable to me. So I'm like, okay, I'll deal with the COVID stuff tomorrow. I'm going to go and read something that's going to, help me out and make me feel good before I go to bed. So it forces me then to book things in, and I'm in control of that, because I wrote the list of what was important to me. I wrote the list of things that I want to schedule in, and then everything else can fit in around that.
That's awesome. I love it. Okay, Stella, you're up next.
Yay.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want to tell a story?
About what?
I don't know. You just look like you wanted to tell a story.
What is your best advice for handstands, pull-ups, and double unders?
Ooh, handstands, pull-ups, and double unders. What's my best advice? A lot of practice. You know what? I'm going to say consistent practice for all of those. So I'll give you one little tip for each one, okay? So for handstands, I think you need to practice being confident and taking your time upside down. And same with the double unders, is taking the time to practice the skill rather than just doing it for the sake of doing it. So I would say to set a clock for those two movements, because they can be a little bit frustrating or a little bit overwhelming, and you can get quite tired from trying so hard. So I would set a clock for, say, no longer than 10 minutes. Give yourself a little bit of structure as to what you exactly want to practice, what your goal is for that, and then only work on it for 10 minutes and then leave it and pick up another day. Write down what you learned, the mistakes you made, and then try and fix it on another day. For pull-ups strength and practice, it needs to be quite consistent. You need to do it often. So for a lot of people, they struggle with the grip and then with the strength of the pull-up and even the patterning of doing it really efficiently. I would say to practice it often, even if it's just a matter of putting it into your warm-ups before you do a workout. And if it's a strength issue, I would do that quite often, just so those muscles kind of understand, what you want them to do, and you'll get your pull-ups in no time.
We have to work on getting your tough hands.
Yeah. Yep. Just hang far.
You want to ask this one?
Yeah. Who do you like to train with the most?
Oh, you know what? I usually train. Yeah, I usually train by myself a lot. But I always have my husband, who's like my best friend. He's always there with me for all my training sessions. So I like to have him around. And I also, you know what? Yeah, I'll just say him. He's probably my favorite to train with. Even if we're not doing the same thing, he's always around, and we can kind of cheer each other on and help each other out at different points. And we do fun partner workouts, and that's pretty fun.
Yeah. So as far as your nutrition goes, I know you've been doing this for 9 years now. 8 years, 9 years. What have you found works and doesn't work when it comes to your nutrition?
I think there needs to be a really even split of getting help from somebody else or another program or something like that can give you guidance and accountability. I think everybody needs that to some capacity. So whether it's someone writing the actual nutrition plan for you or setting macro numbers or whatever it may be, I think to have someone do that in whatever capacity is really good. Then the other side of it is that you need to have accountability for educating yourself and gaining self-awareness of, exactly what you need and what makes you work as a person. And what has worked for me over the years is that I need to understand first and foremost what kind of person I am, and that's emotionally, mentally, what I respond to, and not fight back against who I am, but cater to it, and understand how to essentially get the most out of that. I then trial foods that work and don't work for me. I could write a nutrition plan for somebody that has oats for breakfast every single day, and that person can say, oh, oats make my belly feel terrible, or I don't like them, or whatever it may be. So that's on you to really understand and trial different things and know what makes you feel good and what your body wants. Once you've done that kind of education and you understand how you work and then what your body likes, it's just finding that sweet spot in the middle. And then it takes, again, especially when it comes to nutrition, it takes the emotion out of it, because we know that it can become very much about, or too much about, what you look like or what you think you look like and how you define yourself, or maybe what somebody has said or any past experiences. And it takes away from the fact that it's supposed to make you feel amazing, live great days, sleep well, have like a nice regular mood, and to perform well in whatever it is you're doing in your life, whether it be exercise, work, parenting, whatever it may be. So they're probably my main tips. And then, I'm a huge nutrition advocate. I think a lot of people don't really know that about me, but I can never really ever stop talking about it. And I believe in real good food, not quick food, not emotional food. I would rather temporarily fast if it's a matter of eating junk quick food, and if that's my only option for whatever reason, then I'm going to be okay without something for a little while rather than to put rubbish into my body. And I think that's really, really important to kind of implement that early on in life.
Oh, that's tough. That's a tough one for me. Like, have you always had that kind of discipline, or is it out of necessity that you cultivated it?
No, No, I think I haven't always had that kind of discipline. But what happened is, my mum and I grew up. We didn't have a lot of money. It was just her and I. And back, in those days, it was actually a lot cheaper to eat well. And my mum, being the person that she is as well, she was always cooking food and she always made good food. So I grew up a very, very healthy kid. And then I kind of got older and was left to my own devices and sometimes ate, random silly things and drank alcohol and whatever it may be. And I didn't feel the same and my mood wasn't the same and I was flat and sad and unmotivated and I wasn't good. And I became an athlete again and all of a sudden it came back to eating with purpose. So I educated myself and I started eating with purpose again. And all of a sudden I was this lively, happy, energetic, good person. And that in itself, it made me realize I'm like, this is a thing, this is a real thing and it's really important. And food is supposed to be for our survival. It's supposed to make us be able to thrive each day, and it's not supposed to entertain us. It can be a good thing and you can eat with your friends and family. And I'm not saying don't ever treat and that I don't ever do that, but there's certain things where I fully draw the line. You will never, ever, ever catch me at a McDonald's or anything. I haven't had that since I was a young woman, a teenager. In my mind, there is no excuse. If I'm going to have a treat or something like that, I'm going to have something that's been made with love. Maybe it's at a restaurant and somebody's taken the time and care to make this amazing little piece of cake or something like that as a celebration with people I love. Yeah. And that to me is much more important than, being lazy or again, emotional and just kind of eating rubbish. And I really try and sort of spread that message as much as I possibly can. And I know it's hard, but really, we're grown-ups, we make choices and it's just a matter of having self-control.
Yeah. So what is a day, what does your day look like as far as nutrition? Walk us through a quick breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I have, ever since I started working with Working Against Gravity, which is my nutrition company, my kind of crew that kind of gets behind me, that helps me out, I started eating a lot of oats in the morning. And I keep telling myself I'm going to start having different things for breakfast, but I just love my morning oats. I can't break it. I'm one of two breakfasts. I'm either oats, the organic-y, gluten-free, fluffy, good for you oats, with banana in it. And I put my ATP Science, which is a collagen protein. Mm-hmm. I put that after I cook it, mix it through, and then a bit of coconut oil on top. That's kind of my go-to breakfast for most days. And then if I'm eating out breakfast, which is something I do quite often with my hubby, is that we get avocado toast. We go to a really nice cafe and we get smashed avocado on toast with mushrooms on the side and a coffee. And that's my, my absolute favorite. Mm-hmm. Then pretty much lunch and dinner are always meat and vegetables of some kind. We buy every kind of meat that, we get a variety every single week. We get some beef, we get chicken, we get pork, we get fish, we get everything. So it'll be some kind of protein and then vegetables. I'm a big vegetable eater. I could eat them all day, every day, and I'll do that for lunch and dinner. And then I'll snack on, random little, eating a lot of fruit now. It's getting warmer, so I'm eating an apple and an orange maybe. And I eat basic, really, really basic, and really, really clean, healthy, simple, the way that, our bodies are intended to be fueled.
Right. So let's talk about the games this year and also some of the changes that are kind of in the pipeline, it appears, for the games. So your recap of 2018, where did this kind of fall in the spectrum of your 7 games performances? Where you felt good about it? Your performance is amazing. But out of the 7 you attended, where did this one kind of fall?
The 2018 season, I put absolutely everything in that I possibly could. I crossed all the T's, I dotted all the I's. I asked all the people for help. I committed entirely. I trained as my number one focus and kind of put everything aside, and I went all in and did absolutely everything that I possibly knew how, and I worked harder than I've ever worked. So I say to a lot of people, I won training and I won the effort this year more than I ever have before. When I performed at the games, the same thing applied. I put everything in. I was super professional. I was super, educated and dedicated to every single event that I possibly did. After the games, I had and I've sort of said this a couple of times before, I had this temporary devastation or heartbreak when you put, and I knew that this was a potential outcome, and I had prepped myself for this. And this is why it was super short-lived, but I still, never hid the fact that I was always going for number one, and I will never settle for anything less, whether I ever got there or not. But I had this temporary heartbreak of I did everything and I was my absolute best, but I wasn't the best. And I wasn't the best for that year. It just didn't, for whatever reason, like other girls were better than me, or the events weren't as great for me, or whatever it was. It just didn't, I didn't quite hit that target. But it lasted. By the next day, I cried my eyes out as soon as it happened. Like, as soon as it finished, I cried. And like I said, I'm a super passionate person, and I was heartbroken, and no one could console me. And I just needed to be sad. And then by the next day, I was all but fine. I was pretty much ready. Like, okay, I'm okay. I get it. And the reason that I felt like that is because I got to fall back on the fact that I know that I was the person that tried, and I can always be proud that I was the person that tried. And I know in my heart when I look in the mirror that I did everything, and for that I'm super proud. And you get a little disappointed and you just wish you were better, but doesn't everyone? Even if you win, even if you win or you get everything you want, you still always want to be more or better or whatever.
So what are you going to do okay, let's talk about the game change real quick. So they're doing some sort of changes. I feel like the last time I checked, no one knows what's going on. Do you know what's going on?
No, I hear a lot of secondhand information from different sources, and I know as much as everybody else knows. We know that there are changes. We know that the qualifying process is different now, that there aren't regionals, that there are sanctioned events. I know all those details like everybody else does. But as for that, they've kind of held off on a lot of information. There's a lot of details still missing that make it very difficult for an athlete to make a decision of how they move forward and what that next season looks like. So I guess like everyone else, I'm just sitting back waiting for the information. And because you can't make an informed decision until you have all of the information.
Right. I mean, it seems, and I can say this because I'm not affiliated with CrossFit, and I can say it seems a little inconsiderate that you guys don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been in this sport long enough, and that I definitely understand that, there are changes and it can be quite crazy. And obviously, for whatever reason, the people up higher have decided that this was important, and they've made that decision, and, it's their company and their event to do that. So, as athletes, we know exactly what we sign up for. It's hard, and sometimes you don't know, and you're waiting on other people and other decisions and things like that. So I think you just have to sit back and wait. But at least we're all in the same boat.
Okay, Stella, you got a question about pistol squats.
Yeah. How do you get better with pistol squats?
Usually pistol squats are about mobility. So it's about making sure that your body can get into the position that it needs to get into to be really strong all the way down the bottom. So I would say check if your mobility is there. So if you can actually get into that position, and then if you can, then maybe you need to work on a little bit of the leg strength or the balance to be on one leg. Or if the mobility isn't there, then you can find lots of different stretches and different things that you can do online that can help you get into that spot.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate this time with you. I've got one more question. This podcast is called The Same 24 Hours, and it was born from the idea that we all have the same 24 hours in our day, but it's what we do with them that makes our health, happiness, and success great. So what is something that you do on a daily basis that makes your 24 hours great?
Oh, what do I do on a daily basis?
Besides not eating rubbish. I definitely got it. No more rubbish.
Now someone's going to get a photo of me eating chocolate secretly one day. You know what? I would say the number one thing that I do every single day is I have a moment to myself. So usually it's first thing in the morning for me, but I have like a moment where I check in and I reflect, and I guess I take a moment just to tune in with myself and how I'm feeling and what I'm doing for myself and what my goals are for the day. And you know, that's something that's very, very individual. It's something that only you know, and you're the only one that essentially can control that and knows what's in your heart and what you need. And I always do take that time just to be by myself a little bit each day. And I think if I do that, I'm not only going to be better to myself and have a better day, but I'm also going to be better to those around me. So I think that that's really important. If you ever get a chance just to have a quiet moment, even if it's just standing in the shower, just have a little bit of a think about, you know, your direction for the day and what you want to do and what you hope to achieve, and how it's going to be a little bit better from the day before, then you're going to have a good 24 hours.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Cara. We so enjoyed seeing you at the games and wish you the best of luck and whatever is coming with the games and otherwise.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Bye.
Bye.